Jose Mourinho is a man who is often accused of failing to give youth a chance. A short-term appointment brought in with the intention of achieving short-term success. Arguably the two best defensive players in the Premier League right now, Kevin De Bruyne and Mohamed Salah, were both overlooked and sold by Mourinho during his time at Stamford Bridge, where the former Blues boss was criticised for not fully utilising Chelsea's youth players who had been so dominant at academy level. This is a bit like an older video that I've made a year or so ago, except it would have been the first 7 or the last 7, but since I'm an absolute maverick these days, set free of the shackles of traditional listicle-based formats, I've just decided to pick a random 7 of my own choice that hopefully will be of interest to some of you. Okay then, here are 7 players who made their Chelsea debuts under Jose Mourinho. Where are they now? Anthony Grant, Swindon Town. Remember Anthony Grant? Well, if you're a Chelsea fan, you probably don't, since he only ever made one appearance for the Blues, but he's certainly a familiar face to Southend crew and Peterborough fans, among others. Born in Lambeth, around 5 miles from Stamford Bridge, Grant joined Chelsea as a trainee at the age of 13. He worked his way up to the reserve team, and he was a star man for Chelsea reserves. As a result, Jose Mourinho handed him a very high-profile first-team debut, coming on as a substitute for Joe Cole at Old Trafford, as Chelsea beat Manchester United 3-1 in the Premier League. The result gave Chelsea a record Premier League points tally of 94, which they added to with another point on the final day of the season in a record that wouldn't be beaten for almost 15 years. The following season, Grant was named in Chelsea's first-team squad, but he never made an appearance. Following loan moves to Oldham Athletic, Wycombe Wanderers, Luton Town and Southend United, he left the club for good in 2008, joining Southend on a permanent basis, and the 33-year-old has been playing in Leagues 1 and 2 ever since. A powerful defensive midfielder, Grant signed for Swindon Town this summer, having won the Robins Player of the Year award on loan at the County Ground last season as they won promotion to League 1. Lewis Baker, Chelsea. Again, Chelsea fans could be forgiven for forgetting that Lewis Baker is still contracted to the club since he is one of their many serial loanees. Now aged 25, Baker was a sensational youth team player. He was already subject to a transfer battle at the age of 9, having caught many eyes in Luton Town's centre of excellence. Chelsea beat the likes of Arsenal and Aston Villa to the schoolboy signature, and he continued to impress in the West Londoners' youth ranks. Baker was named as Chelsea's Young Player of the Year for the 2013-14 season, and he was a key man in both England's under-19 and under-21 ranks. In 2016, Baker won the Toulon tournament with England as the tournament's top scorer, but his only Chelsea appearance came under Jose Mourinho in a 2014 FA Cup tie against Derby County. 6 years on, he's had stints with Sheffield United, Milton Keynes Dons, Vitesse, Middlesbrough, Leeds United, Reading and Fortuna Düsseldorf. Chelsea's programme of loan farming is undoubtedly beneficial to the club coffers, but one suspects it hasn't been the best course of action in terms of Lewis Baker's development. Chelsea seemingly still aren't yet willing to give up on Baker, who has played in a couple of pre-seasons this summer, conceding a somewhat soft penalty against Brighton last weekend. Bertrand Traore, Lyon. One of Chelsea's most high-profile academy departees, Bertrand Traore, played a whopping 16 games for the Blues, which is testimonial-worthy stuff, in comparison to our first 2 inclusions. Born in Burkina Faso, but raised in France, Traore joined the Chelsea academy from Auxerre, turning down the chance to sign for Manchester United when he did so. His move to the Blues was a bit of a messy one, since it took 3 years from the initial announcement that he signed for his arrival to technically become official. Traore made his senior international debut for Burkina Faso at the age of 15, which is pretty mental. They clearly weren't willing to risk losing Traore to France, and the 24-year-old has since won 54 caps for the nation of his birth. A quick and lively forward who can play either out wide or through the middle, all 16 of Traore's Blues appearances came in the 2015-16 season, initially under Jose Mourinho, who was replaced midway through the campaign by Guus Hiddink. However, at the end of that season, Chelsea received a €10 million bid from Lyon, and they decided to cut ties with the young frontman, who has since scored 33 goals in 125 games in France, and he was being linked with some top clubs 12 months ago before a slightly underwhelming campaign. He's now being linked with Everton and Newcastle. Stephen Watt, Hythe Town manager. Part of an exclusive group of Premier League one-game wonders, there's no chance of Stephen Watt adding to his solitary Premier League appearance now since he hung up his boots in 2017. Poached by Chelsea from Aberdeen in 2002 as a 17-year-old, Stephen Watt recalls that Jose Mourinho told him that he would be making his Chelsea debut in January 2005 by tapping him on the shoulder whilst he was getting his lunch and asking, "Stephen, have you got any plans for the weekend?" The teenage Scot impressed the special one, playing a full 90 minutes, and in the final game of the 2004-05 season, he came on as an 89th minute substitute away at Newcastle United. That was the only Premier League appearance Watt ever made, but it'll always be able to say that he played a very minor role in one of the finest Premier League campaigns of all time. The 35-year-old defender went on to have an injury-plagued career, with his most notable stints coming with Ross County, Grimsby Town and Maidstone United. Watt ended his playing career with Hastings United in 2017, becoming the new first-team boss at Margate, and he now manages Hythe Town of the Isthmian League South East Division, which is English football's 8th tier. Kurt Zouma, Chelsea. It made sense to include someone who is still at Chelsea and is actually getting some game time now, and Kurt Zouma certainly meets that description. Zouma made 43 appearances for Chelsea last season, and whilst he now faces competition from Thiago Silva, he'll still be confident that he still has a long-term future at the club. There are reports that Chelsea may look to offload Zouma this summer, but personally, I think that would be a mistake. Zouma has bounced back from a dreadful injury a few seasons ago, with a good campaign on loan at Stoke, an excellent season at Everton, and a decent showing back at the Bridge last season. He's still only 25, and he has now played 114 games for Chelsea, with his debut coming under Jose Mourinho, of course, in the 2014-15 season, and he's won 5 caps for France. Michael Woods, Dover Athletic. Those of you who were following football in the mid-2000s may recall that Michael Woods was part of something of a transfer saga between Chelsea and Leeds United. A real star of England's under-16 ranks, Chelsea fought tooth and nail to bring Woods to Stamford Bridge, along with his teammate Tom Taiwo. When the deal was complete, Leeds owner Ken Bates accused his former club of tapping the two players up. In an out-of-court settlement, Chelsea paid Leeds £5 million, and it proved to be a poor piece of business on Chelsea's part. Unquestionably talented, Woods became Chelsea's 4th youngest player of all time on his debut against Macclesfield Town in 2007. Unfortunately, however, the young central midfielder suffered a wretched knee injury just as he was beginning to feel at home at Stamford Bridge. Repeated injury problems followed, and Woods would never add to the 2 Chelsea appearances that he made in the 2006-07 campaign. He ended up dropping into the non-league game with Harrogate Town, where his form prompted a move back to the Football League with Hartlepool United. Still aged only 30, Woods now plays for National League side Dover Athletic. Ben Zaha, Apoel Nicosia. From Yossi Benayoun to Tal Ben Haim and Avram Grant, Chelsea have had a bit of a link with Israeli football since Roman Abramovich's arrival, and that's hardly surprising given that Abramovich is now a full Israeli citizen. Ben Zaha was snapped up by Chelsea from the Hapoel Tel Aviv youth ranks as a 16-year-old, having scored 5 goals in 6 games for Israel's under-16 national team. A sharp-shooting poacher of a forward, Zaha cost the Blues £320,000 following a 2-month trial at the Bridge, and if nothing else, Chelsea did at least turn a profit on the youngster. Zaha made his debut in the same game as Michael Woods against Macclesfield Town, and he went on to make 3 Premier League appearances under Jose Mourinho, failing to find the back of the net. Loan moves to QPR, Sheffield Wednesday and Portsmouth were equally unsuccessful before a more fruitful spell in the Netherlands prompted a £1 million bid from Espanyol. Zaha struggled again in Spain and Germany and then back in the Netherlands before returning to Israel in 2015 and finding his level once again. He has scored over 60 goals in 151 games since signing for Hapoel Beersheva in 2015, although he recently joined Apoel Nicosia on loan for the season, where he's already scored 1 goal in 1 game. Apoel were, of course, famously managed by Neil Franklin back in the 1960s, around the time of the Cyprus crisis and Bloody Christmas, and you can read more about that by going to www.englandsgreatestdefender.com. Oh, come on, it's been a while. Right, okay, that's it for today's video. Thank you all for watching. Hit the like button if you enjoyed it, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, and make sure, as ever, that you are subscribed to HITC Sevens. And if you'd like to follow me on Twitter or Instagram, the usernames on both is just @HITC Sevens.